Welcome to People in the News. For Paula Zahn, I'm Kira Phillips. If anyone has made the glare of celebrity their champion, their companion, it's Elizabeth Taylor. From adoration and acclaim to gossip and innuendo, Taylor has always seemed to command the spotlight. And while she's more recognized today for her charity work, she remains, to many, the ultimate movie star. Here's Sharon Collins.
You know what I feel like? I feel all the time like a cat on a hot tin roof.
Then jump off the roof, Maggie, jump off it.
A frustrated wife in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Hang on, Velvet, come on, bye!
And a young jockey in National Velvet. Elizabeth Taylor's had roles in more than 40 movies. 2 Oscars, 7 husbands, and several life-threatening conditions later, it seems Taylor, at the age of 70, has finally settled into the role she was born to play, that of a crusader in the fight against AIDS.
We need more money for AIDS, and we need it now.
We must not spread fear or panic in our education.
We are at war with a virus. We must not be at war with each other.
Miss Elizabeth Taylor.
After spending over a half-century on screen, Taylor is putting her enormous fame to work off-screen.
Enough is enough.
Elizabeth Rosamond Taylor was born in London, February 27, 1932, to American parents. The family fled at the start of World War II, and by 1940, they were in Southern California. And Elizabeth was in pictures, becoming a contract player for MGM Studios.
I want to be a famous writer.
In 1944, National Velvet made Elizabeth Taylor a reluctant sensation at the age of 12.
The truth of it is, the worst way to grow up, ever, is to be a child actor. It was very difficult to be treated the way she was treated. The studio used her. I think probably her parents used her. I think the public used her. I think the media has used her. I think people have used Elizabeth. And I think it's been very difficult for her.
She wasn't a kid in National Velvet. She had the essence of a growing, beautiful child who was going to be more beautiful every day.
She suddenly became a woman. I guess it was happening. We were all under contract together, but one day I saw her as a girl, and the next day, she must have been 14 or 15. Suddenly, there was this most beautiful woman I ever saw.
First of all, this is magnetism in these eyes that are color that you really can't explain. They don't even show up on film. You see them in life, and you go, wow.
Wow.
A beauty that was on full display opposite Montgomery Clift in her 1951 picture, A Place in the Sun.
Hello.
Hello.
And then her career went in such a way that she became beyond where most of us were. And I don't know, I maybe have no right to say this. I'm not sure it ever made her that comfortable.
I'd like you to meet my new dog, Bronco.
When we return, Elizabeth Taylor, all grown up, now grows into a life of celebrity, chaos, and heartbreak.
We now return to People in the News.
With Elizabeth Taylor, MGM brass knew they had a star on their hands. And as luck would have it, her May 1950 wedding to Conrad Nicholas Hilton, heir to the Hilton Hotel fortune, coincided with the release of Father of the Bride.
I pronounce that they are man and wife in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost.
To ensure a fairy tale event, the studio went so far as to design the 18-year-old Taylor's wedding dress, dress her bridesmaids, and arrange the flowers.
Well, we're looking forward to a very wonderful trip, and I know that my bride and myself are going to have a wonderful time in Europe. Honey, what about it?
Well, I certainly am looking forward to it.
I knew Nicky, and I liked Nicky, but Nicky was had a difficult life himself.
And it was a difficult marriage. Less than 6 months passed before it was over.
Norman Krasna looked at Elizabeth one day, the director, and he said, "Elizabeth, I think you're in for a very tempestuous life."
What day are you getting married, Mr. Marley?
Well, I hope Friday. Maybe Saturday, but I hope for Friday. Even Thursday if I can.
It was Michael Wilding, a popular British actor, who next would woo Elizabeth Taylor and win her. 20 years his junior, she was still only 19 years old when she married him.
London Airport, and arriving in Britain is film star Elizabeth Taylor and Michael Wilding. They've come to spend a holiday at home and to have blue-eyed 7-month-old son Michael christened.
The Wildings were happy enough for a time. They had 2 sons, Michael, born in 1953, and Christopher, sharing his mother's birthday in February of 1955.
Please do go on talking. I'd love it.
Later that year, Taylor was shooting Giant, playing opposite heartthrob Rock Hudson and a young upstart named James Dean.
I guess you're about the best-looking gal we've seen around here in a long time.
24-year-old Dean and 23-year-old Taylor bonded off-screen. It was a friendship that would end abruptly with Dean's tragic death.
Jimmy died at the 2 weeks before we finished the movie, and I remember Elizabeth was very close to Jimmy, and she would come in and get ready to work, and then she would just fall apart and have to be sedated and start crying hysterically and have to be taken off the set.
It wouldn't be the first time Elizabeth Taylor would lose a man she loved. By Giant's premiere 1 year later, her relationship with Michael Wilding was over, and she was on to the next, a hot romance with extravagant showman Mike Todd.
The day after my separation from Michael Wilding, Mike called me and said he had to see me right away. He just told me. And Mike charged in, I mean, rather like a bull. He just charged in without saying a word to anyone. And he came over to the table, and he grabbed me by the arm as he sort of plunked me down on a couch, pulled a chair around, started in on a spiel that lasted about an hour and a half without a stop, saying that he loved me and that there was no question about it, but we were going to be married. So I was absolutely sort of hypnotized.
24-year-old Elizabeth Taylor married for the 3rd time, becoming Mrs. Mike Todd on February 2nd, 1957.
When Mike bought me my engagement ring, I think he was almost as proud of it as I was, but he always used to make a joke about it, saying that it was 29 7/8 carats because 30 would have been vulgar. I call it my ice skating ring.
He was a larger-than-life character, and from everybody's perception at the time, he was the man who could tame her. Mike Todd was never shy about turning to her in public and saying, "Shut up." And for somebody like that, I think it was a very refreshing. There was no question that even though she was the biggest star in the world, he was a star.
Would you suggest a good fight now and then to married couples, Mike?
Well, we're not introverts. If we have something to say, I say, "Hey, Liz." She hollers, "Hey, Mike." And if you make a Dreyfus case out of that, then it's too bad. But we're very, we're so happy.
It doesn't matter. I don't really care
like
what anybody thinks anyway, because we know. And we'll know 20 years from now, 30 years from now, if we're still alive.
The loving couple had a daughter, Liza, on the 6th of August, 1957. But before her first birthday, she would lose her father.
In the private plane named for his wife, the drama of the showman reaches finis. He was rarely without her, as in these last films of him alive. Mike Todd left Elizabeth Taylor in Hollywood because she had a virus, and flew to his death in an isolated mountain valley 22 miles southwest of Grants, New Mexico.
A widow at 26, Elizabeth Taylor found comfort in singer Eddie Fisher, who'd been a very close friend of the Todds. There was one catch, though. Fisher was married to Debbie Reynolds. Sympathy for Elizabeth Taylor was short-lived. The public was appalled when Fisher left America's sweetheart to take up with Taylor.
What's charming about Elizabeth Taylor is that just when you think that she can live without a man, that's when the man becomes the most necessary thing in her life.
She converted to Judaism and married Eddie Fisher in Las Vegas in 1959.
How much are you willing to pay for that?
Despite her chaotic personal life, Elizabeth Taylor was flourishing as an actress, sharing the screen that year with 2 of Hollywood's heavyweights in Suddenly Last Summer.
But I do think Suddenly Last Summer is her best performance. It's just extraordinary. And sometimes a little overlooked because she's always on the screen with Kate Hepburn and Montgomery Clift and so on, but she's the one that's dishing it out and doing it. She's terrific in that picture.
After Suddenly Last Summer, Elizabeth Taylor became the first seven-figure actress, demanding and getting an unprecedented $1 million to play Cleopatra for 20th Century Fox. But before MGM would release her from her contract, Taylor was forced to make a film she would always dislike, Butterfield 8, in which she played a call girl. Finally, in late 1960, she went to London to film Cleopatra. London was cold and rainy. A fragile Taylor became ill, not once but twice, the second time with a viral pneumonia that nearly killed her.
She could get so sick so quickly, I remember, and where other people would just get a cold, she would have pneumonia.
In April of 1961, 1 month after an emergency tracheotomy saved her life, Elizabeth Taylor accepted her first Oscar for Butterfield 8. She had won not only the Academy Award, but the affection of her public again.
Nothing like this has come into Rome since Romulus and Remus.
In September of 1961, Cleopatra resumed shooting, this time in Rome, with Richard Burton playing Mark Antony. The film was epic in every regard, including the real-life love affair that erupted between Taylor and Burton. Again, lives and marriages would be torn apart, his to Sybil Burton, mother of his 2 small children, and hers to Eddie Fisher.
I walked into makeup at 7:30 in the morning, and Elizabeth was sitting in the makeup department. Richard came in, said, "Morning, Martin," went to her, kissed her on the forehead, and sat down in the chair next to me, and I said, "Oh, boy. Oh, my God."
It was the first relationship lived out under the prying eyes of the paparazzi, and a huge international scandal.
The Vatican denounced it, and we're in Rome. Several members of Congress got on the floor to propose taking away her passport. Press credentials to get onto the set of Cleopatra were worth, I don't know what, on the black market. How somebody lives through that with a sense of humor, and yet obviously with all kinds of things really wrenching her, but how she navigated through it, how she didn't just toss it in or whatever, I don't know.
Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton were free to marry in 1964. They worked together again in 1966 in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. The movie seemed to mirror their often rocky off-screen relationship.
You married me for it!
You're a monster.
It also earned Taylor her second Oscar.
But I am not a monster!
Why do you think your relationship with Richard Burton was so fiery? Was it temperament, or was it just the booze?
No, I think we were two very volatile people. As a matter of fact, we were like 2 atom bombs. And when we'd go off together, there'd be this tremendous explosion. But we'd come down together, and we didn't sulk, and we didn't pout, and it never lasted. And we had a ball fighting.
They would marry twice, finally divorcing for the second time in 1976. But the mystique of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton never disappeared.
They were such a corporation there for a while that, I mean, you know, they both went to much more low-key relationships after each other, understandably, really.
Taylor retreated from the Hollywood spotlight to the horse country of Virginia, taking up with politician John Warner. But after 5 years as the wife of a United States senator, Elizabeth Taylor realized her 7th marriage was a mismatch. Warner and Taylor divorced in 1982 when she was 50 years old. A year later, Burton died of a stroke.
I know you don't have regrets, because that's not your style, but do you somehow wish that you had been reunited with Richard Burton?
I'm sure we will be one day.
For Elizabeth Taylor, the struggles would continue, but so would her determination. When we return, Taylor takes on a new challenge late in life.
We have only one weapon to combat the spread of AIDS. That weapon is education.
Elizabeth Taylor uses passion to reinvent herself yet again when People in the News continues. But first, here's this week's...
Welcome back to People in the News.
Miss Elizabeth Taylor.
The 80s was a decade of extremes for Elizabeth Taylor.
Where passion rules, how weak does reason prove?
You'll see.
Taylor launched 2 of the most successful perfumes in history, but her acting career seemed to disappear, and the media became consumed with her unusual friendships and her battles with weight. By 1983, Elizabeth Taylor was clearly unhealthy. She was an alcoholic and she was addicted to pills. After a family intervention, she checked herself into the Betty Ford Clinic.
I admitted to myself that I was an alcoholic and I had a problem with prescription pills. And in order to survive, in order to live, I had to change that.
During a second stay at Betty Ford, Taylor met construction worker Larry Fortensky. Many people were bewildered by their relationship. But in 1991, at age 59, Elizabeth Taylor, now a grandmother of 8, married the 39-year-old Fortensky at Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch. 4.5 years later, her 8th marriage was over. No longer someone's wife, Taylor immersed herself in the fight against AIDS, something she had been passionate about for some time. Taylor co-founded AMFAR, the American Foundation for AIDS Research, in 1985. It was the same year her dear friend and former co-star Rock Hudson died as a result of the disease. In 1991, the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation was formed, raising more than $8 million to date for AIDS service organizations around the world. And in 1992, she was recognized with the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Oscar.
It's all fine and well to say, abstain from sex, but that's not a practical answer.
From testifying on Capitol Hill to lobbying politicians for research money, Taylor never minced words when fighting for the cause, once saying that then-President George Bush didn't even know how to spell AIDS.
AIDS education must be forthright and understandable.
Elizabeth Taylor has brought to life unforgettable characters on film, but she has brought even more hope to millions around the world. We thank her for sharing her talent and her heart. Thank you, Elizabeth Taylor.
In 2001, her humanitarian work earned Elizabeth Taylor the Presidential Citizens Medal. But no honor was greater for the British native than the dameship bestowed upon her by Queen Elizabeth 1 year earlier.
It is the most exciting, and I do not exaggerate, day of my life.
And as she enjoys her 70th year,
I'm a great-great-grandmother.
It's clear Elizabeth Taylor has no intention of slowing down.
I feel wonderful. And world, watch out.
Although Elizabeth Taylor says she's not quite ready to write her autobiography, she does have a new book due out October 1st that's very close to her heart. It's about one of Taylor's legendary passions, her love affair with jewelry. The book includes the story of Taylor's 33 1/3 carat diamond, the one she received as a gift from actor Richard Burton.
Coming up on People in the News.
Welcome to People in the News. For Paul Azan, I'm Kira Phillips. If anyone has made the glare of celebrity their champion, their companion, it's Elizabeth Taylor. From adoration and acclaim to gossip and innuendo, Taylor has always seemed to command the spotlight. And while she's more recognized today for her charity work, she remains, to many, the ultimate movie star. Here's Sharon Collins.
You know what I feel like? I feel all the time like a cat on a hot tin roof.
Then jump off the roof, Maggie, jump off it.
A frustrated wife in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Hang on, Velvet, come on, bye!
And a young jockey in National Velvet. Elizabeth Taylor's had roles in more than 40 movies. 2 Oscars, 7 husbands, and several life-threatening conditions later, it seems Taylor, at the age of 70, has finally settled into the role she was born to play, that of a crusader in the fight against AIDS.
We need more money for AIDS, and we need it now. We must not spread fear or panic in our education. We are at war with a virus. We must not be at war with each other.
Miss Elizabeth Taylor.
After spending over a half-century on screen, Taylor is putting her enormous fame to work off screen.
Enough is enough.
Elizabeth Rosamond Taylor was born in London, February 27, 1932, to American parents. The family fled at the start of World War II, and by 1940, they were in Southern California. And Elizabeth was in pictures, becoming a contract player for MGM Studios.
I want to be a famous writer.
In 1944, National Velvet made Elizabeth Taylor a reluctant sensation at the age of 12.
The truth of it is, the worst way to grow up, ever, is to be a child actor. It was very difficult to be treated the way she was treated. The studio used her. I think probably her parents used her. I think the public used her. I think the media has used her. I think people have used Elizabeth. And I think it's been very difficult for her.
She wasn't a kid in National Velvet. She had the essence of a growing, beautiful child who was going to be more beautiful every day.
She suddenly became a woman. I guess